This party in full effect. Gerald Jabot, Bottle Papa, DJ Fingerprint,
Yes,
and of course, we have the mayor of the city of Jackson in the B-Day 99.1 studios. How you doing, young man?
I'm doing good, brother. Happy to be here with y'all.
Yeah,
Long
finally
time
here.
coming.
Finally
Long time
here,
coming.
yeah.
Yeah.
You finally got here. Seems like the right time,
Yeah.
to come into the studios and just hash it out a little bit.
Yeah, man, look forward to talking with you.
Yeah.
We chop it up all the time. And
Yeah.
my good friends here and just speak before your listening audience.
Yeah, man. Let's get into the jokes first. All right. So you got deemed, coined the term, Drake of Jackson. How do you take that?
I think there are worse people to be, compared to. The only problem I have is they never make, that mistake when I'm in the bank.
Yeah. Give you a little something extra, right?
Never any confusion at that time.
Yeah, man.
They're very clear on the difference between us. Yeah.
Oh, you the mayor this time. Don't even worry. Yeah, I get it.
Today.
Man, how does it feel to be in the shoes that you're in at a very young age and coming in at that point?
Well, first and foremost, it's an honor. I'm honored to be entrusted with the position, and that means a great deal to me. It is something that I take very seriously.
Yeah.
This is a job that there is no off hour. It's 24/7. And so I'm grateful to my family too. Because,
Definitely.
It's a big commitment. That means there's more time that my wife spends with our daughters that I'm not around.
Right.
There's sacrifices that even my little girls make. And so it is more than a notion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that I'm grateful to be doing.
Absolutely.
Did you imagine being in your shoes, right?
Never.
Never.
Just kinda
Print.
happened.
Never print. Never.
Yeah.
In fact, we're talking before people who don't know how far back some of us go.
Yeah, we got history.
But my family has been involved in community activism my entire life. So I certainly expected and knew that was a part of who I am and what I needed to be doing. I feel that whatever work you're a part of has to be a part of a larger effort to be engaged in the upward mobility of our people. So I knew that would be the case. But, our early history was, anti-police brutality demonstrations.
Absolutely.
It was, direct action against,
yeah.
city government. It was, anti-Klan rallies. So
Sure, yeah.
I never thought, that was the direction that we would be in. But, I think that my father's maturity and growth in his political activism was one that led him to believe that, you have to meet people where they are. Right?
Absolutely.
And, not to get too philosophical, but there's a great revolutionary, Amilcar Cabral, who said that people aren't fighting for the ideas in your head. They're fighting for the right to win material benefits. Right?
Sure, absolutely.
And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to connect pothole to pothole and community to community, so our people in Jackson understand why there's a community that looks just like theirs in Gary, Indiana, and Detroit, Michigan, and New Orleans. And in that process, they realized that the pothole wasn't their problem in the first place. Their problem was the fact that they don't control the decision-making process that leads to a pothole.
Right, definitely.
Right? And so on and so forth. So didn't see that, but grateful. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So being such a young mayor, do you find it hard for people to relate with you or the other members of council or anything to take you seriously because you're younger?
I think they take me seriously. They may. I obviously there are disagreements, right?
Sure.
What is the ultimate recipe to what leads to those disagreements? I can't tell you from their standpoint. I know that professionally, often age is a barrier for people.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this. While I am a young mayor, I come steep in work with my elders.
Definitely.
The reason that the work I'm talking to you about, I was doing this and a part of this the entire time I grew up. Right. I would do security. What kind of security I really was.
Well, you do a little martial arts,
I used to do security at the Malcolm X Center when I was, 10, 11 years old, which that pretty much was we giving you a walkie-talkie if something go down.
Right.
You need to hit somebody up.
Yeah.
But, I've been around this my entire life, and so they understand what my foundation is. My father always wanted, now he, actually spoke to a number of people, that come to me all the time, and he had a vision of this being more in the lane for me than even he felt like it was for him.
Okay.
Wow.
And I was honestly resistant to that.
Really?
Not only was I resistant to that, my wife was too. And so I used to be able to pawn it off on Ebony and say, look, if you can convince Ebony, then you can convince me, knowing that you can never convince Ebony.
Yeah.
But February 25th, 2014, the day my father died, was the day that I, really realized that while this wasn't my ambition, that leadership must come less out of political ambition and more out of necessity.
That's right.
And it's necessary that we be represented by those who love us most.
Absolutely, man.
That's right.
Real language.
Yes.
Let's get to, and we're not going to take a lot of time on it, but let's talk about, what everybody's, I think, the city of Jackson is concerned with the crime. Okay, a couple of weeks back, you said that and please quote me right if I misquote you. You said that the city is safe. Is that what you said?
What I said, I was asked, and I actually clarified
And
this.
because I didn't get that. Yeah.
So I was asked the question, right, about the shooting that took place at the state fairgrounds.
Sure.
Right. And I have some, things that I like to say what I wasn't asked or what nobody else was asked. But they said that some people are fearful because of that large gathering, whether, it's safe to go to large gatherings in the city of Jackson.
Right.
And I pointed to the fact that, we just had 100,000 people for the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Yeah, we were
I
out
pointed
there.
to the fact
Yeah.
that we broke records with Jackson State football and all the events we had.
Absolutely.
I pointed out the fact that, more recently, we just had May Day Fest. And I pointed out that we actually, as a city, accomplish safe events all the time, right? And that was more the exception than the rule. And so I said that the city of Jackson was safe in that regard. Now, if we go further, right, I would point to the fact that the overwhelming majority of the violence we see is between interpersonal relationships, right?
And it always, it seems to be always that.
Absolutely. Well, our data
For the
points that out,
majority
right?
of the crime that
Yeah.
happens.
So as that relates to the question of safety, the likelihood that in a random act of violence is going to happen to you is low in comparison, right?
Sure.
Now, one death, one murder, one random act is one too many, right? And so we're always concerned with that. So that's what I spoke to.
Okay.
And so people were calling me, were taking my comments out of context,
Right.
right? And so I clarified that. But no one ever asked the state, questions like, what kind of security did y'all have at the fairgrounds? Which, what I have heard from witnesses is that there was essentially none, right?
Right.
No one asked the state, what are you doing to make sure that large events that you have are safely protected? We had trap cello in Jackson,
Yeah,
Mississippi,
we did.
right?
Right.
No problems whatsoever,
None,
right?
right.
And so, it's this thing that no matter, who's actually responsible, somewhere down the line, we are the recipients of all the arrows.
But who holds actual responsibility? Is it city officials and not just the mayor, or is it the parents, or is it a little bit of all of it? Because I think when we see news on TV, I think it just looks like, damn, that happened, and if it bleeds, it reads. So they're always going to show what happened that's violent. And from your standpoint, who's at fault, or who should take responsibility for this?
It's a collective thing.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
All right.
And the reason I say, first of all, if you just think about the dynamics of what takes place. First of all, you have, conflicts that take place usually in a private space,
Sure.
right? Where you don't have, the immediate presence of officers, right? Officers are historically a responsive force, right?
Sure.
And so after a crime takes place, they are there to find out the who, what, the when, where, and how, right?
Absolutely.
And deal with it then, right? You have a justice system which is delayed in every way. You have people who are often arrested, but because there's no space for detention, right? They're released. You have a court system that is backlogged by 3 years. And so people are sitting around waiting to go to trial. The conflicts that they are engaged in are still brewing in the community. Justice delayed feels like justice denied, so people often take it in their own hands, right?
Yep.
You have a state crime lab. We talked about the delay in the trials. You have a state crime lab that is back, right? And so if you can't get the ballistics report or the medical examiner's, report in order to go to trial, then that delays you. And so it becomes, it is systemic, right?
Sure.
All of those things that I mentioned are things that we have no sphere of influence over, right? We have no control, but people point to the city and say, the city has a crime problem, right? We talk about, the resources we ask for, right?
Right.
And are denied on every end. Now, I do believe that the city has a responsibility. I do believe that we have onus in creating an environment that is more supportive to our young people.
Right.
What we have been fighting for as an administration is how do we give alternatives to young people? How do we deal with violence interruption?
And how do we? I mean, what would be your solution to that? Or
Well-
or many solutions to a situation?
Well, I'll tell you what we're trying to create. While we didn't receive any of the funding that we've asked for from the state, and they've repeated the same refrains about what Jackson is in violence, we did receive money from the National League of Cities to nearly $1 million.
Good stuff.
With that seed money, we intend on creating an Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery, right?
Okay.
And that is working with credible messengers that go in the community that identify our young people at the highest risk. That is understanding that after a shooting takes place, the next most likely place that another shooting might happen is amongst the people who are angry, who are infuriated, right? And they need to have their anger and the trauma that they're going through addressed, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
We need to hire, as a city, we need to be able to focus on, as we make hires for police officers, it needs to be a one-to-one going forward where we also hire social workers.
Right.
Where we hire
Absolutely.
mental health counselors. Those are the type of comprehensive things that we want to do. We talk about things like curfew for young people, and I've even tried to implement it. The reality is that it's only as effective as your ability to enforce it, one. And two, we probably need, and this is what we're looking at as well, a curfew center, right?
Okay.
So that it's not just a correctional measure where, now some circumstances, may elevate to the level of detention based on what may be happening. But some young people are just lost,
Yeah.
right?
Real language, yeah.
And they need people who can address the fact that they're lost. My
Right,
father used to
right.
say, this young brother stopped me at the barbershop and he said, your dad talked to me one day and, my pants were sagging. And my father told him, he said, look, I'm not going to tell you to pull up your pants, young brother. He said, instead, I'm going to try to lift up your mind. And when I lift up your mind, you'll lift up your pants.
That's real language. It's the afternoon office party. Gerald Jabot, Bottle Papa, DJ Fingerprint. We got the mayor of the city of Jackson in the building. He's giving us some game on what's going on in and around the city. Man, y'all feel free to chime in. We got a number, 769-218-8277. I still got it in front of me because I haven't memorized it yet.
So, Mr. Mayor, I did have a question. It's something I've been asking for a long time. We have discussions about it in here, and you actually said something about it the other day. Is why don't we get the funding from the state? Why doesn't Jackson get funding from the state, like say a Biloxi or a Tupelo or Gulfport or Vicksburg? It's like this is a capital city. You would
Right.
think with everybody having to come to the capital city that they would do something other than fix the roundabouts and whatever they can in that area. They would be more concerned with the city.
I think that there are two dynamics, one of which, people are sometimes angry for me saying, right? The first dynamic is that, there's a conflict between the rural versus urban environment, right? We live in a predominantly rural state. The needs and challenges of an urban environment like Jackson, Mississippi aren't always relatable and understandable to those who make those decisions. That's one, right? And I think that we would be less than honest with ourselves if we didn't say that race plays a role in it, right?
That's all I want to hear.
And people, people have been angry with me for saying that, right?
It's true.
And my position, even some people who are in legislature and are fighting for issues, but they, they're angry with me for saying it. And I'm saying, listen, they hadn't given us anything for 40 years. Why are we holding back the truth in hopes that one day that they're going to just, turn around and just realize and move a different direction? We need to be honest with it. We need to call it out. And we need to challenge them to do better. I've been called arrogant for that, and I said, well,
It's
any
true.
black man with his
Truth
own mind
hurts.
is arrogant.
Yeah.
Truth hurts.
Real language. Let's talk about the garbage contract. Okay. Let's
You
talk
gonna do
about
that
it.
to me, Gerald?
A little bit, a little. I mean,
Yeah.
because I want to know: is it? I guess is it common for a mayor to just go as hard as you have for the garbage contract. Is that a common thing, or is there another issue that has been going on within, council and yourself?
I would imagine that it isn't common, but what also isn't common is that there's the open violation of the law that's taking place. Right?
Okay.
The law requires us to do a request for proposals.
And could you school the citizens that are listening to us right now on how that procurement works?
So once you have the expiration of a contract of that type,
Right.
the law requires that you do what is called a request for proposals. You publish that, and then companies who intend to submit a bid, right, or a proposal, they then do so, right? And those proposals are then to be evaluated by an independent committee, which I am not a part of.
Okay.
And those evaluations are then submitted to me, to determine whether I accept their recommendation or not, right?
Right, gotcha.
In this circumstance, I actually deviated from that. What I did, instead of making the recommendation myself, we made certain that the RFP process was done by a blind bid, which meant that none of the companies could put their names on it. None of the companies could put a watermark or any identifying symbols, right?
Okay.
We made a cone of silence, so nobody was supposed to talk to any of the companies, right?
All right.
And we did that so that we could just make our decision based on the proposals themselves, right?
All right.
In that process, the council selected two, and they were the two-day options. And they said, Mayor, this was a quotable for one of the council members, we trust you to make the decision, right?
Okay.
And so the decision that I made was the one that was $12 million cheaper than the other one, right?
Okay.
What does that mean? That $12 million isn't, the difference isn't sitting in an account at City Hall that we can just, decide that we're not going to fund this community center and instead we're going to pay this $12 million. That is money that will be directly taxed to you, right?
Okay.
So that means a higher rate to the citizens, right? Not to mention, was it not only $12 million cheaper, it offered more, right? It was $12 million cheaper with a garbage bin to be provided to every resident with the city seal on it, with some type of tracking device so that our residents who don't have garbage bins, our residents, our city, where we have rodents that get in our trash and spread trash all over the city,
Right.
that we could have a cleaner city, that we could have something that applied to what everybody needed. And so we already know that the garbage rates are going to be increased because every bid was significantly higher than what we have been paying over the years, right?
Okay.
We already know that we just raised our water rates because the EPA required us to, because our bond insurance company required us to. So we're doing all of these things that are going to tax our residents. I think it's my responsibility to not only look at, what is selected by the committee, but to choose what is most financially feasible for the residents.
Gotcha.
Not to mention, yes, it is an added blessing that this company that won is a black-owned company, and that is incredibly rare, that a black-owned company has the capacity to bid against major corporations like the ones that were also in the process.
Okay. Yeah, man, because when you get it, you get bits and pieces of it, you don't totally understand, and you don't have the time to read the contracts. It all just looks like you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to you.
And I think that's intentionally so, right? That's
Right.
intentionally so
Right.
because, big corporations have big friends, right?
Oh, they do. All day.
And so, we were just struggling for the longest when we're having press conferences and people are trying to make heads or tails over the issues. People didn't even know the basic fact that it was $12 million cheaper, right?
Right.
Wow.
So how strange or weird or crazy is the mayor for trying to do $12 million cheaper, on the contract?
I
right?
love it. Yeah, I love that.
And especially when that price is paid by the residents.
Now,
right?
what about the situation where people saying my trash isn't being picked up?
Yeah, well, that's happening because we didn't go through this process as it should, right? What we did was try to fight a company where we typically give about 3 months of a transition period of time. We outlined a timeline for every stage of this. We told them what the scoring matrix were. We told them what the a difference between an option and a requirement in the RFP. Everybody knew this. We had 2 community meetings where we explained to community. We talked about it in every council meeting. And if we would have stayed on the timeline, we would have given the company everything that they needed in order to have a seamless transition.
Right.
We didn't even give them routes. right? So they had to create their own routes. They had to look at maps and determine how, and that's not as easy as people think that it is, right?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of time. And so the fact that we haven't seen more examples of people's trash not being picked up is absolutely amazing that has happened. And they have improved each and every week. And so from what I understand, their numbers of calls have dwindled significantly.
Well, good. Okay.
Now you mentioned, these big companies having big friends in high places. So that wants me to go. I want to go back to the state issue. Do you feel like there are officials statewide that are just like bound and determined to see Jackson fail?
I believe that there are.
Yeah, and if so, why?
Yeah. I believe that there is a sentiment that the leadership of Jackson is not the leadership that they choose, right?
Oh, I see.
I believe that there's a sentiment that there are resources in Jackson that can be taken advantage of, right? Such as our airport, right? And they feel that they could do a better job with our airport. And what is the airport battle really about, right? It's not actually about the actual facility where planes come in and take off, right?
The name?
It's not even about the name, right? That's an added problem, right, for them. But the problem is that the airport sits on 3,000 acres of land owned by the city of Jackson.
I thought it was just 90.
No, the actual physical airport sits on about 300 to 500. Don't make me state precisely because I forget. It's somewhere in that ballpark.
Sure.
But the point is that there's a significant amount of land to be developed, some of which is incorporated as the city of Jackson, some is incorporated in Pearl or Flowood, some is unincorporated. But the point, you have pristine land that can be developed on. If you go over off of Lakeland Drive and turn on the street right by the Chick-fil-A and make a right and go up that hill, you see a lot of land that's undeveloped once you get past those restaurants. That is owned by the city of Jackson.
Wow. Right.
One of the reasons that it ain't developed is because they want to get it out of our hands, right? And so, I have this point, the principle that I operate my life, the principle that I try to lead this city on is one of self-determination. Right. We need to be able to profit off of that. We need to be able to develop off of that. The city needs to profit off of it. And the fact that people want to take that from us is a problem. One of the newer issues, we've had all these issues with water,
Yes,
we just did a groundbreaking of sorts on an $8 million project that is creating a 40-inch water line to better serve South Jackson. Okay. In addition to the challenges we have at the water treatment facilities, we also have these small pipes that are going to the furthest point of our city, serving our bigger populations, which puts more pressure on it, which is unreasonable for the flow of water. And so this is an $8 million project. The line is about a mile long. And so we're investing in it. Now, we've been having all these issues that have gone internationally. The state has not made any firm commitment to the city of Jackson. All while I know that there are meetings happening with people like the lieutenant governor, right? And concession firms, which basically means privatization, about how they privatize or how they try to get me to agree to privatize our water. What happens when we privatize our water?
Well, we don't
the
get that
people
money.
you elect will have no say-so. You'll be able to apply no pressure on the rates and whether they're considering affordability in that process. The money and the revenue will go to someone who's making a profit as opposed to being able to turn over and fix and repair the things that you need to be fixed and repaired.
I got a question from one of the listeners, and they wanted to know why are we wasting money on transferring criminals back and forth, transportation, manpower costs, instead of building a jail in the city of Jackson?
Well, let me say this. That agreement predates me, and I don't know what the challenges were at the time prior to and why that was ideal at the time or preferred. But I will say this, that I have met with some of the leadership of the county, and they are building a new facility. It seems to be headed in the headed forward, and the facility that they are building will be near the Henley Young Detention Center, right?
Okay.
And so that will be in Jackson. And this is not, it will be a facility that they believe will accommodate the needs of all of the county.
Right.
They will ultimately, their ultimate aim is to move away from the Raymond Center into the new facility. So we're not going to have, two huge jails.
Okay.
This is realizing that the current facility isn't safe, the current facility has great deficits, and so they're trying to build a new facility that is more accommodating and humane than the present one.
Definitely.
Okay, now I hear a lot about businesses leaving the city. Now, what are some future plans for the growth of Jackson? And another thing I just wanted to know, because I don't know the laws and the zoning and everything like that, but is it hard for Jackson to get something, say, like a casino?
Yes. Presently, the law is that you have to be on navigable water.
Okay.
In order to.
We got the Pearl River back there on Northeast
Yeah,
Jackson side.
but they don't consider that navigable.
Oh, really?
At this time.
Not
at
today.
This time. Well, let's say there's some development ideas that
Right.
I think that we can make a good argument for it.
Yeah, sure.
Over the course of time. But that is something that could potentially be talked. I'll tell you, you're going to have resistance from in the legislature from Vicksburg. You're gonna have resistance from the coast.
I figured they would want Jackson's administration to change, and then the laws would change so things like that could happen.
Well, I'm sure a lot of things they would anticipate changing,
Yeah.
but they would also anticipate changing the demographics of Jackson.
Yeah.
As well,
Right.
right. But let me say this: in terms of the development, yes, we have suffered some losses over the years. I think we've had a lot of businesses that have done well but weren't vested in Jackson, right? And we want that reciprocal relationship. We want businesses that are not only here and are profitable and doing well, but also have a commitment to our residents. And part of that is having a strategy that lifts that up. And so, one of the things we're trying to do with our ARPA funds is to create an incubator for cooperative businesses, right? That means businesses that are owned by the community. So part of its mission is to not only fill the gaps that are there, but its mission is to serve the community that has given rise to it. And so that's one of our strategies. I will tell you that there have been, there has been some development in Jackson, but what I would say is that what we want it to be is more equitable and more evenly distributed.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that a rising tide lifts all boats. Sometimes we spend a lot of time talking about what is left and don't talk about what has come,
What's
right?
come.
And we don't point out the fact that, we aren't the only ones, right?
Right.
Pearl outlets.
Right. It was supposed to be here.
Yeah.
It was.
Not only, but if you've been there recently, right? A lot has left
Oh,
there,
yeah.
right?
I haven't been there lately.
Yeah, a lot is left there.
Yeah.
And so I would say that you also want to operate in balance with where the economy is now, right? Because a lot of our economy is digital or online, online retail. And so you don't want to oversaturate that because, a lot of these cities and a lot of these places have become hurt by that because people started doing more online shopping and not actual in-person shopping. And that created some challenge. So for instance, what is a sore spot on a normal day or normal year? In the midst of COVID, Jackson wasn't hurt as badly as some other places because a lot of what we offer is, those critical or necessary, goods and services, and so we didn't see a huge dip in our revenue.
Definitely, man.
And one more thing I wanted to touch on was the homeless situation in Jackson. We hear a lot about the homeless. We see them putting up fences and things so they can't go under the bridge. Are there any plans to do anything to help these people?
Actually, your question is very timely. First of all, that is Mississippi Department of Transportation.
Okay.
That puts up those gates.
Okay.
That's not the city.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And their concern, as it has been suggested to me, is one of safety. Based on being under the bridge, whether, any number of things that they think may interfere with the infrastructure or may actually harm them as individuals. But we just, I want to give a shout out to Patalamus White.
Yeah, we were there a couple of weeks back. Yeah.
And people like Chloe Dotson in the city of Jackson's planning department. We just broke ground on the first of its kind comprehensive homeless center in Jackson.
Awesome.
And it's what I'm saying is the first, and this is I appreciate the people who have been working in this area of compassion for years.
Right.
But this is a center where there's not only long-term residence for them,
Yes.
You have social workers that are there. You have a barber shop that is there.
Oh,
you have a
kitchen.
cafeteria.
Yeah, they
Shower.
You have
everything.
so it's a
Yeah.
former. I think it was previously an elderly or a care home,
Yeah.
right? Not retirement, but
But it was,
Nursing home?
it
Yeah.
was something like that. Yeah, I remember
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So it has
Yeah.
really good space and an ability to do that. So we're happy to do that. And we're leading the way. One of the challenges we have with homelessness in the city of Jackson is that we're not recognizing it as a regional problem. We literally have footage of other cities putting people in vehicles, whether
dropping them off
it's
right here.
whether it's
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah, we saw that.
under their
Addressed
own
it.
will or
Yeah.
whether they're being forced,
Yeah.
and they're just dropping them off in Jackson. They're not dropping them off with resources. They're not dropping them off with any suggestions of how they support us dealing with it. The expectation is that we figure it out, right?
I know
And then it said, Jackson, get together your homeless problem.
Right.
Because I know some of the residents are worried about, a lot of the homeless people being in the abandoned homes and everything.
Yeah.
So, what is the solution for that?
The solution for homelessness is always going to be resources.
Or just the abandoned homes?
Yeah. The abandoned homes is one thing that we feel the solution is to create we've been trying to create I'm drawing a blank on time in terms of the term. It is there's a system that allows you, and Detroit took advantage of it, where it allows you a land bank. Land
Okay.
bank.
Yeah.
Land bank legislation that removes a lot of the red tape that is there. If you've ever purchased a home, you know that there's a lot of documentation, the ownership, the history of the home, any liens, all of those things are dealt with at that time.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, even when you're trying to demolish a home,
You have
all
to
of
go
those
through the
things
same
have
thing.
to be worked through,
Wow.
right? And
Yeah.
so, even when there's money to demolish a home, if you don't have the money that deals with the administrative issues of that, right? If there's all of that red tape, if there's ability for people to be absentee landowners, meaning that they live somewhere else, and you can't even find them in order to penalize them, hold them accountable for what they're doing, then it's a system that gets out of hand.
Definitely.
The old adage is, and I'm going to use it in comparison. If you owe the bank $1 million, then you have a problem.
Yeah.
If you owe the bank $10 million, then you have a problem, and the bank has a problem.
Definitely
right?
have a problem.
And so it's so pervasive, right?
Right.
And not only is it the neighbors or the individual who owns the house that has a problem, it's the city itself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Most
so
def.
we need the type of vehicle that allows us to deal with it in a mass level. People talk about Detroit and its bankruptcy, and it was horrible, right?
Right.
There's a lot of dynamics to that, but one of the things were a lot of burned down, abandoned structures.
Right.
Yeah.
They have essentially been able to clear all of that through land bank legislation.
Okay.
Most cities who have done it in that way. That's something we've been putting forth for years. We are grateful that the MML, Mississippi Municipal League,
Yeah.
actually supported that measure this year because they have identified that is actually the best means to go about it.
Okay. Before you get out of here, because we're approaching the top of our hour, real quick, is there any future of you running for mayor again? You going to stay hang out with the city, or any other political aspirations for you?
Let me say this. We got to remember, I just ran last year, right? so it's a little early. It's a
Okay.
little early for a number of reasons, but I think that it's disingenuous
Yeah.
for anybody to be making announcements about what they're going to do 3 years ahead of time.
Sure.
Because that means that it's about you.
Yeah.
It's not about, whether you believe that the city needs this or that, right? That this is what I see. And so I will do that evaluation from that standpoint. I'm going to pray on what I do going forward.
Absolutely.
And I'm certainly going to talk to my wife about what I do.
Is there anything? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I did have one more question,
Well-
because I know some people and they just wanted me to ask. Don't get offended. It's strictly a joke, because they just really wanted me to say this. But are you smoking that dope, Mr. Mayor?
Well, like I said before, it was
terrible.
It was
That's what
funny.
it was.
It was a shame. It was not the shining example
No.
of our city.
Right.
And I said I regretted going back and forth because
Yes.
it distracted from the point.
That was
but to answer the question, I have never smoked dope. Right.
Okay.
And even first of all, there's differences in between what people consider dope.
Yes.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
But as it pertains to marijuana,
Yeah.
even, I've never even smoked marijuana, not because I have a moral objection to it, right? Not because I haven't had friends or people. I grew up in Jackson. I went to JPS.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't have a problem with it, right? In that regard. The only reason that I hadn't smoked is one, I'm not interested. It's just it's not appealing to me.
Right.
But the other piece is, if Miss Davis, Miss Jones, if Mr. Thompson, if our elders, if that is a barrier for them as me being a young person, for them to see me as a leader, then the compromise is not worth that for me, right? So that's why I haven't.
That's why I asked you
I'll
that
tell you this.
question.
My wife will tell you I'm even, I'm a lightweight when it comes to drinking, right? Now I'll enjoy a drink every once in a while, but so were my parents. My parents used to get they used to get box wine sometimes with dinner.
Yeah.
They just be giggling at the house with this little box wine. Like,
But before you get out of here, is there any encouragement that you can give to the citizens of the city, just to ease the pain, make them feel a little better?
well, I think that when we look at certain things and struggles we've had, we've had struggles with our infrastructure and our roads, right?
Right.
You see a city where we've paved more miles of road in the last term than the previous 10 years combined, right?
Okay.
I can tell you right now that there are businesses that want to come to Jackson and deals that we have on the table to grow and prosper our city. I think that we have a strong administration that is prepared to fight in every way for our residents. I think that Jackson is pregnant with possibilities.
There it is, diamond in the rough. There you go.
And we merely have to nurture that in order to make sure that it comes into fruition.
Right.
The greatest resource we have are our people, and so we need to actually speak to the residents and inform them. And I believe with their knowledge, we'll be making the right decisions, and it'll be our collective genius that will solve Jackson's problem.
One more thing, if citizens want to get in contact with the city of Jackson, if they have problems, if they see anything more than just calling 911, what are some of the web addresses, some of the Facebook,
if you have a non-emergency, then you want to call 311.
311.
311, is how you register those complaints. We're on, Facebook at City of Jackson.
Right.
I'm on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter at Mayor Lumumba.
Okay.
You can also go to the city's website. People ask me all the time for jobs. Look there, right?
Right.
There's a lot of vacancies. You can start there. We're challenging our human resource division to become more nimble and making sure we onboard people quicker because there are people who are applying for jobs, and so we're applying that pressure, and we expect that we'll see improvements there. But go to the city's website, www.jacksonms.gov.
Okay. Yeah, man, we appreciate you coming through, man. You must come through and hang out with the afternoon office party on Red Cup Fridays.
Yeah, I
something like
appreciate it,
that.
man.
He always say he lightweight.
Definitely, man. We appreciate y'all. Y'all locked inside the afternoon office party. DJ Fingerprint is getting ready to rock out on this Throwback Thursday. Yeah, man. Yes, the Traffic Jam Mixing is powered by Signature Insurance Agency, 15 Northtown Drive in the city of Jackson. Home auto and business insurance. Go get you some because the afternoon office party said so. And when you mention us, they're going to give you a discount, all right?